Imagine a vast network of roads stretching across deserts and mountains, connecting the east and west. This was the Silk Road, and the Sogdians were its masters. They weren't emperors or conquerors, but skilled traders and diplomats who thrived for centuries. The Sogdians lived in Central Asia, in what is today Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. They built a trading empire that spanned from China to the Byzantine Empire. Their caravans carried silk, spices, and precious goods across treacherous landscapes. The Sogdians were tough and adaptable, surviving in a landlocked region with scorching summers and freezing winters. They were also incredibly skilled at languages and navigating different cultures, making them the ultimate middlemen of the Silk Road.
We Sogdians were natural traders, you know. We knew the dangers of the Silk Road like the back of our hand, navigating treacherous mountain passes and harsh deserts. Our caravans, sometimes stretching for miles, were a common sight.
Camels, known as the ships of the desert, were their trusted companions. They carried silk from China, spices from India, and glassware from Rome. Sogdian merchants knew the value of these goods and how to trade them for maximum profit.
But we didn't just trade goods. No. We brought new ideas and technologies with us. Papermaking, for instance, traveled from China to the West, thanks to us Sogdian merchants.
This exchange of knowledge was just as important as the trade in luxury goods.
The Sogdians were more than just merchants. We were cultural bridges between East and West. As we traveled, we carried with us our own unique culture, language, and art.
They also embraced the cultures they encountered, absorbing new ideas and beliefs. Buddhism, for instance, spread eastward from India through Sogdian communities.
We built monasteries along the Silk Road, creating havens for monks and travelers. And in our art, we incorporated Buddhist imagery, blending it with our own traditions.
The Sogdians also played a key role in the spread of Manichaeism, a religion that combined elements of Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism.
Our openness to different faiths made us important players in the religious landscape of the Silk Road.
The Sogdian cities of Samarkand and Bukhara were bustling hubs on the Silk Road. Located in present-day Uzbekistan, these cities were more than just trading centers. They were melting pots of cultures and ideas. Samarkand, known for its beautiful turquoise domes, was a major center for trade in silk, spices, and slaves. Its bazaars were legendary, filled with exotic goods and the chatter of merchants from distant lands. Bukhara, known as the Noble, was a center of Islamic learning and scholarship. Its mosques and madrasas attracted scholars from far and wide. The city also boasted impressive libraries filled with ancient manuscripts. These cities were testaments to the Sogdians' entrepreneurial spirit and their ability to create thriving urban centers in the heart of Central Asia.
Survival on the Silk Road, you see, wasn't just about trade, it was about diplomacy too.
The Sogdians truly were masters at navigating the intricate web of cultures and empires they encountered.
We learned the languages of our trading partners, Chinese, Persian, and many others.
And that understanding allowed them to build relationships, negotiate deals, and honestly, avoid those little cultural missteps that could turn into big problems.
Oh yes, we made sure to respect local customs and traditions.
The Sogdians even went beyond trade, serving as diplomats for some of the most powerful empires of their time.
For instance, we played a key role in facilitating communication between the Tang dynasty in China and the Sasanian Empire in Persia.
Their skills in diplomacy, I must say, helped maintain peace and stability along the Silk Road.
Indeed, the Sogdians' ability to bridge cultural divides was nothing short of remarkable. The Sogdians enjoyed centuries of prosperity on the Silk Road, but their influence began to wane as new powers emerged and trade routes shifted. The rise of Islam in the 7th century AD brought significant changes to Central Asia. Arab armies conquered Sogdiana, incorporating it into the growing Islamic empire. While Islam initially coexisted with other religions, it gradually became the dominant faith in the region. The Sogdians, who had been followers of Zoroastrianism and other faiths, slowly converted to Islam over time. And then the rise of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century dealt another blow to Sogdian influence. Genghis Khan's conquests disrupted trade routes and led to the decline of many Silk Road cities, including Samarkand and Bukhara. Over time, the Sogdians, as a distinct cultural group, faded away. Their language, which was once spoken across Central Asia, eventually fell out of use. Their cities, once bustling centers of trade, were absorbed into new empires. For centuries, the Sogdians were largely forgotten by history. Their story honestly remained hidden in the sands of time, known only through fragmented accounts and archaeological ruins.
However, their story didn't end there. In the 19th and 20th centuries, explorers and archaeologists began to rediscover the Sogdians and their remarkable legacy.
The rediscovery of the Sogdians is really a testament to the power of archaeology and historical research. Excavations at sites like Panjakent in Tajikistan have unearthed remnants of Sogdian homes, temples, and marketplaces.
These discoveries have revealed a vibrant and sophisticated culture. Frescoes depicting scenes from Sogdian life adorn the walls of their homes, showcasing their love for music, dance, and storytelling.
Linguists have also played a crucial role in piecing together the Sogdian story. By deciphering their language from inscriptions and documents found along the Silk Road, they've given a voice to a people long silenced. The Sogdians may have disappeared from the historical stage centuries ago, but their legacy lives on.
They were pioneers of globalization, connecting East and West through trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange.
Their story reminds us that history isn't just about empires and conquests, but also about the individuals and communities who shape the world we live in.
The Sogdians, through their adaptability, their entrepreneurial spirit, and their openness to other cultures, left an undeniable mark on world history.
Their story continues to fascinate and inspire us today, reminding us of the enduring power of human connection and cultural exchange. The Silk Road may be a thing of the past, but the legacy of the Sogdians, well, it continues to resonate across the centuries. Gap 2S. While the Sogdian influence on trade and diplomacy is undeniable, their legacy in art and craftsmanship is equally remarkable. The Sogdians were master artisans, their works embodying a unique blend of styles influenced by the diverse cultures they encountered along the Silk Road. Gap 1S. From vibrant murals in ancient palaces to intricately carved silver vessels and textiles adorned with motifs of mythical creatures, Sogdian art was a testament to their creativity and cultural synthesis. Their workshops became melting pots of innovation, blending Persian, Indian, Chinese, and Greco-Roman elements into something entirely their own. Gap 1S. One of the most iconic examples of Sogdian artistry is the Panjakent murals. These stunning frescoes depict scenes of daily life, mythology, and the grandeur of Sogdian society. They provide a vivid window into a world where art was not just decorative, but a storytelling medium, reflecting the values and aspirations of their time. Gap 1S. The Sogdians also excelled in textile production, creating luxurious silk garments that were highly prized across the ancient world. Their designs, often featuring intricate patterns and symbolic imagery, were traded far and wide, influencing fashion and textile art in distant lands. Gap 1S. Even today, fragments of Sogdian craftsmanship inspire modern artists and historians. Their art reminds us that creativity knows no borders and that beauty can emerge from the crossroads of cultures. The Sogdians may be gone, but through their art, their spirit endures. Gap 3S. As we admire these masterpieces, we are reminded that the Silk Road was not just a network of trade routes, it was a canvas for human expression. And the Sogdians, with their artistic genius, left brushstrokes that continue to captivate us across the millennia. Gap 2S. While the Sogdians left their mark on art and trade, their language stands as one of their most enduring contributions to Silk Road history. The Sogdian language, an Eastern Iranian tongue, became the common thread that wove together the diverse cultures and communities spanning the vast Silk Road. Gap 1S. As merchants, diplomats and travelers moved between East and West, Sogdian served as the Lingua Franca, enabling communication across regions as diverse as China, Persia and Byzantium. Gap 1S. Written in a script derived from Aramaic, the Sogdian language was versatile and adaptable, incorporating words and phrases from other languages it encountered. This adaptability made it an invaluable tool for commerce and diplomacy, where understanding and negotiation were essential. Gap 1S. Sogdian merchants carried not only goods but also messages and contracts written in their language, ensuring that deals could be struck and upheld across thousands of miles. Gap 1S. But the Sogdian language was more than just a tool for trade. It was a vessel for ideas. Religious texts, including Buddhist, Zoroastrian and Christian manuscripts, were translated into Sogdian, spreading spiritual beliefs and philosophies far and wide. These translations helped bridge cultural divides, fostering an exchange of ideas that enriched civilizations along the Silk Road. Gap 1S. Even as the Sogdian people faded from prominence, their language lingered, influencing others long after their peak. Fragments of Sogdian texts discovered in places like Dunhuang and Turfan have become treasures of historical linguistics, offering glimpses into the life and connections of a bygone era. Gap 1S. The Sogdian language reminds us that the Silk Road was as much a highway of ideas as it was of goods. It highlights the power of communication in shaping human history and underscores the Sogdians' pivotal role as connectors of worlds. Gap 3S. In their words, written and spoken, the Sogdians left a legacy that continues to echo through the corridors of time, reminding us that language is one of humanity's most profound tools for connection. Gap 2S. While the Sogdians are celebrated for their linguistic and cultural contributions, their mastery of trade routes was the foundation of their enduring legacy. Stretching across the vast expanse of the Silk Road, Sogdian merchants were the architects of an intricate network that connected the bustling markets of East Asia with the opulent courts of the Middle East and beyond. Gap 1S, from the ancient cities of Samarkand and Bukhara to distant trading hubs like Chang'an and Ctesiphon, the Sogdians forged paths that brought goods, ideas and people together. Gap 1S. Their caravans carried silk, spices, gemstones and textiles, but their economic impact went far beyond the goods they traded. The Sogdians acted as intermediaries, facilitating transactions and ensuring the smooth flow of commerce across borders. They introduced innovations such as credit systems and written contracts, which reduced the risks associated with long-distance trade and built trust between diverse trading partners. Gap 1S. By doing so, they not only enriched themselves, but also stimulated economic growth and cultural exchange across the regions they touched. Gap 1S. The Sogdians were also adept at responding to the challenges posed by their vast trade network. They negotiated with local rulers, adapted to changing political landscapes, and navigated the harsh terrain of deserts and mountains. Their resilience and adaptability ensured that trade flourished even during times of upheaval, making the Silk Road a lifeline for empires and civilizations. Gap 1S. But perhaps their most remarkable contribution was the way they transformed trade into a means of cultural connection. The goods they carried often brought with them stories, traditions and ideas, weaving a tapestry of shared human experience. The Sogdians showed that commerce was not just about profit, it was a powerful force for building bridges between worlds. Gap 3S. Today, the remnants of their trade routes and the artifacts they left behind remind us of the profound impact the Sogdians had on shaping the interconnected world of their time. Their legacy lives on, a testament to the power of vision, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of exploration. Gap 2S. The Sogdians were not just merchants of goods and ideas, they were also carriers of flavors, spices, and culinary traditions that transformed the Silk Road into a corridor of gastronomic exchange. Gap 1S. As their caravans traveled across the Silk Road, they brought with them dried fruits, nuts, and spices from Central Asia, introducing these ingredients to the kitchens of faraway lands. Gap 1S. In return, they adopted new flavors and techniques, blending them into their own culinary practices. Gap 1S. The result? A fusion of tastes that spanned continents, enriching the palates of empires and everyday people alike. Gap 1S. Imagine the bustling marketplaces of Samarkand, where merchants traded saffron from Persia, tea from China, and pepper from India. Gap 1S. Sogdian traders not only facilitated the exchange of these coveted ingredients, but also shared recipes, cooking methods, and food preservation techniques. Gap 1S. The art of making flatbreads, for instance, traveled from Sogdian hearths to the ovens of distant lands. Gap 1S. While the use of fermented dairy products, such as yogurt, became a staple in many Silk Road cuisines. Gap 1S. But the influence of the Sogdians extended beyond ingredients and recipes. Gap 1S. They turned shared meals into opportunities for cultural connection. Gap 1S. Banquets hosted by Sogdian merchants became melting pots of culinary traditions, where dishes from east and west were served side by side, Gap 1S, and diners from different cultures exchanged stories over shared feasts. Gap 1S. These gatherings were more than meals, they were moments of diplomacy, fostering understanding and cooperation among diverse peoples. Gap 2S. Even today, traces of Sogdian culinary influence can be found in the cuisines of Central Asia, the Middle East and beyond. Gap 1S, the rich pilafs of Uzbekistan, Gap 1S, the aromatic spice blends of Persia, Gap 1S, and the vibrant street foods of China all carry echoes of the Sogdian spirit of culinary exchange, Gap 1S. Their legacy reminds us that food is more than sustenance. It is a bridge that connects us, a language that transcends borders, and a reflection of the shared human experience. Gap 3S. As we explore the tastes and traditions that have endured through centuries, Gap 1S, we honor the Sogdians not just as traders but as culinary ambassadors of the Silk Road, Gap 1S, whose influence continues to flavor our world today. Gap 2S. The Sogdians were not only merchants of goods, ideas and flavors, they were also carriers of profound spiritual diversity. Gap 1S, traveling across the Silk Road, these cosmopolitan traders became bridges between religions, spreading beliefs and fostering dialogue among cultures. Gap 1S, the Sogdian heartlands, including Samarkand and Bukhara, were melting pots of faith where Zoroastrian fire temples stood alongside Buddhist stupas, Christian churches and even early Islamic mosques. Gap 1S, their Zoroastrian roots ran deep. Gap 1S. Fire altars, the sacred symbols of their faith, burned brightly in their homes and temples. Gap 1S. But the Sogdians were remarkably open to new religious ideas. Gap 1S. As caravans crisscrossed the Silk Road, they encountered Buddhism from India. Gap 1S. Nestorian Christianity from the West. Gap 1S. And later, Islam from the Arabian Peninsula. Gap 1S. Rather than rejecting these beliefs, they embraced them, weaving them into their cultural and spiritual lives. Gap 2S. Imagine the bustling caravanserais where Sogdian merchants hosted travelers from all corners of the known world. Gap 1S. These places were more than rest stops, they were forums for philosophical and religious exchange. Gap 1S. A Buddhist monk from China might share the teachings of the Dharma with a Zoroastrian merchant, Gap 1S, while a Nestorian Christian trader explained the tenets of his faith to a Persian scholar, Gap 1S. The Sogdians didn't just absorb these ideas, they became active agents in spreading them. Gap 1S. They translated sacred texts into multiple languages, ensuring that teachings could travel as easily as the goods they traded. Gap 1S. The famed Sogdian letters discovered by archaeologists even contain fragments of religious discussions, offering us a glimpse into their spiritual lives. Gap 2S. Their openness to diverse beliefs made them invaluable intermediaries in a world divided by geography, language and ideology. Gap 1S. In fact, it was often the Sogdians who connected Buddhist pilgrims to sacred sites, Gap 1S, delivered Christian manuscripts to distant lands, Gap 1S, and facilitated the spread of Islamic teachings along the Silk Road, Gap 2S. Today, their legacy lives on in the syncretic traditions that emerged from these exchanges. Gap 1S. The Sogdians remind us that diversity is not a barrier, but a strength, Gap 1S, and that the sharing of beliefs can unite humanity in understanding and respect, Gap 1S. Through their spiritual openness and willingness to connect, the Sogdians left an indelible mark not only on the Silk Road, but on the history of human thought and faith. Gap 2S. The Sogdians were not just merchants and cultural intermediaries, but also master diplomats, Gap 1S. Operating at the crossroads of empires, they navigated the complex political landscapes of the Silk Road with remarkable skill. Gap 1S, their ability to adapt to shifting alliances and power dynamics, earned them a reputation as trusted envoys and negotiators. Gap 1S. From the Tang dynasty in China to the Sassanid Empire in Persia, the Sogdians were frequently sought after as intermediaries, Gap 1S. Bridging not only trade but also political divides, Gap 2S. The Sogdians excelled in fostering relationships with powerful rulers, Gap 1S. For example, they played a pivotal role in the Tang dynasty's expansion of Silk Road trade. Gap 1S Sogdian envoys often represented their communities in Chinese courts, Gap 1S. where their linguistic prowess and cultural fluency allowed them to negotiate trade agreements and political alliances. Gap 1S. They were instrumental in establishing the diplomatic channels that connected East and West, enabling not just the flow of goods but also the exchange of ideas and influence. Gap 2S. One of their most effective strategies was their deep understanding of cultural sensitivities. Gap 1S. The Sogdians could seamlessly adapt to the customs of the regions they engaged with. Gap 1S, whether it was adopting Chinese court protocols or respecting Persian ceremonial traditions. Gap 1S, this cultural adaptability allowed them to build trust and maintain favorable relations with diverse empires. Gap 2S. But their diplomacy was not without risks. Gap 1S, the Sogdians often found themselves caught between rival powers. Gap 1S. For instance, during the rise of the Islamic caliphates, they had to carefully balance their interactions with the expanding Arab forces and their traditional Persian allies. Gap 1S, their survival depended on their ability to mediate conflicts and find common ground, even in the face of shifting political tides. Gap 2S. The Sogdian letters, a treasure trove of historical insight, reveal their sophisticated approach to diplomacy. Gap 1S. These ancient documents include correspondence with rulers and officials, Gap 1S detailing trade negotiations, requests for safe passage, and even subtle political maneuvering. Gap 1S. Through these letters, we see the Sogdians not just as traders, but as strategists who understood the art of statecraft. Gap 2S. Their diplomatic legacy is a testament to the power of communication and cultural intelligence. Gap 1S. In a time when empires often clashed, the Sogdians proved that dialogue and negotiation could pave the way for cooperation and mutual benefit. Gap 1S. Their strategies remind us that diplomacy is not just about politics. Gap 1S. It is about understanding, respect, and the ability to find common ground in a diverse and interconnected world. Gap 2S. The Sogdians were more than merchants. They were the diplomats of the Silk Road. Gap 1S. Shaping the political and cultural landscapes of their time and leaving a legacy that continues to inspire us today. Gap 2S. Beyond their mastery in diplomacy and trade, the Sogdians left another indelible mark on the Silk Road through their textiles. Gap 1S. These vibrant, intricately designed fabrics were not just commodities. Gap 1S. They were cultural artifacts that told stories of a connected world. Gap 1S. Sogdian textiles, often adorned with motifs of mythical creatures. Gap 1S. Floral patterns, Gap 1S, and geometric designs reflected a fusion of influences from Persian, Indian, and Chinese traditions. Gap 2S. They were prized across the Silk Road, sought after by merchants, nobles, and even royalty. Gap 1S. The Sogdian weavers were renowned for their skill, combining luxurious materials like silk, Gap 1S gold thread, Gap 1S and wool to create fabrics that were both durable and exquisite. Gap 1S. These textiles became a symbol of status and wealth. Gap 1S, often exchanged as gifts between rulers or used to adorn the courts of empires. Gap 2S. But the significance of Sogdian textiles went beyond their aesthetic appeal. Gap 1S, they also served as a medium for cultural exchange. Gap 1S. The designs often incorporated symbols and motifs that carried spiritual or political meaning. Gap 1S, acting as a form of visual communication across cultures. Gap 1S, for instance, a Sogdian silk featuring a phoenix might symbolize rebirth in one region, Gap 1S, while representing imperial power in another. Gap 2S. These fabrics were more than trade goods. Gap 1S, they were bridges between civilizations, weaving together the stories, beliefs, and values of diverse peoples. Gap 2S. The production of textiles also played a crucial role in the Sogdian economy. Gap 1S. Weaving centers in cities like Samarkand and Bukhara became hubs of innovation and craftsmanship. Gap 1S employing skilled artisans and driving local economies. Gap 1S. The demand for Sogdian textiles spurred advancements in dyeing techniques. Gap 1S, loom technology, Gap 1S, and pattern-making innovations that would influence textile production far beyond Central Asia. Gap 2S. Today, fragments of Sogdian textiles discovered in archaeological sites remind us of their enduring legacy. Gap 1S. These remnants, preserved in the dry climates of desert trade routes, provide a window into the artistry and connectivity of the ancient world. Gap 1S. They tell the story of a people who understood the power of beauty and craftsmanship, Gap 1S, and who used their talents to connect cultures across vast distances. Gap 2S. Through their textiles, the Sogdians left a legacy of creativity, innovation, and cultural exchange. Gap 1S, a testament to the threads that once connected civilizations on the Silk Road. Gap 2S. The Sogdian textiles remind us that trade is not just an exchange of goods. Gap 1S, it is an exchange of ideas, artistry, and human connection. Gap 1S, in every stitch we find a story of collaboration and shared heritage. Gap 1S, a legacy that continues to inspire and unite us to this day. Gap 2S. Beyond their contributions to trade, textiles, and cultural exchange, the Sogdians also left an enduring mark on the landscapes they called home. Gap 1S. Their settlements, strategically positioned along the Silk Road, were architectural testaments to their ingenuity and adaptability. Gap 1S. From the bustling cities of Samarkand and Bukhara to smaller fortified towns, Sogdian architecture reflected a harmonious blend of practicality and artistic expression. Gap 2S. The Sogdians designed their cities with a focus on trade and defense. Gap 1S. Thick walls of sun-dried bricks encircled their settlements, providing protection against invaders. Gap 1S. While gates served as controlled entry points for merchants and travelers. Gap 1S. Within these walls, a labyrinth of streets opened into vibrant bazaars. Gap 1S, where goods from across the world were exchanged. Gap 1S, and ideas and cultures intertwined. Gap 2S. The architecture of Sogdian homes was equally distinctive. Gap 1S. Houses were often built around central courtyards. Gap 1S, serving as private sanctuaries for families. Gap 1S. These courtyards featured shaded areas and water channels, demonstrating a keen understanding of how to create comfort in the arid climate of Central Asia. Gap 2S. The interiors were richly decorated with murals and carvings. Gap 1S, showcasing scenes of daily life, mythological tales, and the cosmopolitan influences that defined Sogdian culture. Gap 2S. Religious architecture also played a significant role in Sogdian settlements. Gap 1S. Zoroastrian fire temples with their altars for sacred flames were central to spiritual life. Gap 1S. While Buddhist stupas and monasteries reflected the Sogdians' openness to diverse faiths. Gap 1S. These structures often incorporated unique elements such as domes and intricate carvings, blending local traditions with the architectural styles of Persia, India, and China. Gap 2S. One of the most remarkable features of Sogdian architecture was its adaptability. Gap 1S. As the Sogdians interacted with different cultures along the Silk Road, Gap 1S, they absorbed and integrated new techniques and styles. Gap 1S. This adaptability not only enriched their own architectural heritage, but also influenced the design of cities and buildings far beyond their homeland. Gap 2S. Today, the ruins of Sogdian settlements stand as silent witnesses to a vibrant past. Gap 1S. Archaeological excavations have uncovered fragments of walls, pottery, and frescoes, offering glimpses into the lives of these resourceful people. Gap 1S. These remnants remind us of the Sogdians' ability to create spaces that were both functional and beautiful. Gap 1S spaces that fostered connection and community. Gap 2S. The Sogdian settlements and their architectural styles reveal a civilization that understood the art of building, not just structures, Gap 1S, but networks, relationships, and legacies. Gap 1S. Through their cities, the Sogdians wove together the threads of diverse cultures. Gap 1S, creating a tapestry of human achievement that continues to inspire us today. Gap 2S. The story of the Sogdians, like many great civilizations, is not just one of growth and achievement, but also of decline and transformation. Gap 1S. By the 8th century, the Sogdians began to face challenges that would gradually erode their influence along the Silk Road. Gap 2S. One of the most significant factors was the rise of new powers. Gap 1S. The expansion of the Tang dynasty in China and the early Islamic caliphates in the West brought new players to the Silk Road. Gap 1S, who often sought to dominate trade routes previously controlled by the Sogdians. Gap 2S. The Arab conquests in Central Asia in the 7th and 8th centuries marked a turning point. Gap 1S. The fall of Samarkand to Arab forces in 712 CE disrupted the Sogdians' strategic position, Gap 1S, as their cities and trade networks came under new governance and cultural influences. Gap 2S. Over time, the spread of Islam across the region also began to reshape the cultural and religious landscape. Gap 1S. The Sogdians, who had long thrived in a pluralistic environment, found their Zoroastrian and other religious traditions increasingly marginalized. Gap 1S. While some adapted by converting to Islam, others saw their cultural identity begin to dissolve. Gap 2S. Economic shifts further contributed to their decline. Gap 1S. The rise of maritime trade routes in the Indian Ocean offered faster and more direct connections between East and West. Gap 1S. Reducing the importance of overland routes like the Silk Road. Gap 2S. As the Sogdians lost their monopoly on Silk Road commerce, Gap 1S, their role as intermediaries in the exchange of goods and ideas, diminished. Gap 2S, internal strife and fragmentation within Sogdian society also played a role. Gap 1S, the once unified network of Sogdian city-states began to fracture. Gap 1S, weakening their ability to collectively respond to external pressures. Gap 2S. Despite these challenges, the Sogdians did not vanish entirely. Gap 1S. Their legacy endured in the cultural and genetic tapestry of Central Asia, Gap 1S, as well as in the influences they left on the civilizations that followed. Gap 2S. Their language, art, and innovations in trade and governance continued to echo. Gap 1S, subtly shaping the course of history long after their decline. Gap 2S. The story of the Sogdians reminds us that no civilization exists in isolation. Gap 1S, they rose to prominence by connecting distant worlds, Gap 1S, and their decline was a reflection of the ever-changing dynamics of those connections. Gap 2S. Though their influence may have waned, the Sogdians remain a testament to the enduring power of cultural exchange and adaptation. Gap 2S. The Sogdians, once thought to have vanished into the sands of time, are being rediscovered in ways that reignite their story for modern audiences. Gap 1S. Over the past century, archaeologists, linguists, and historians have unearthed artifacts and texts that breathe new life into the Sogdians' legacy. Gap 2S. From the ruins of Panjakant to the Sogdian letters found on the ancient Silk Road, each discovery unveils fragments of a civilization that thrived on innovation and connection. Gap 2S. These findings have revealed not only their vast trade networks, but also their artistic brilliance, Gap 1S, their literary contributions, Gap 1S, and their ability to navigate the complexities of a multicultural world, Gap 2S. Modern technology has played a pivotal role in this rediscovery, Gap 1S. Digital reconstructions of Sogdian cities, Gap 1S. Translations of ancient documents, Gap 1S. And genetic studies tracing their lineage have painted a fuller picture of who the Sogdians were, Gap 2S. Their story is no longer confined to academic circles. It has found its way into museum exhibits, documentaries, and even global conversations about cultural heritage, Gap 2S. In a world increasingly interconnected, the Sogdians serve as a reminder of the enduring importance of exchange of goods, ideas, and beliefs. Gap 2S. Today, the people of Central Asia take pride in this shared heritage. Gap 1S. Sogdian motifs, from their vibrant textiles to their intricate murals, inspire contemporary art and design. Gap 2S. Festivals celebrate their contributions to history. Gap 1S. And scholars continue to delve deeper into their impact on the ancient and modern world. Gap 2S. The rediscovery of the Sogdians is not just about uncovering the past, it's about understanding how their story resonates with the present. Gap 2S. Their ability to adapt, to build bridges between cultures, and to thrive amidst diversity offers lessons for a world still grappling with the challenges of globalization. Gap 2S. As we reflect on the Sogdian legacy, we are reminded that even as civilizations rise and fall, their influence can ripple across time, shaping the identity of future generations. Gap 2S. The Sogdians, once lost, have found their place once more, not just in history books, but in the collective consciousness of humanity.